Hi everyone and welcome to this video. We are going to talk about Oracle, the artificial intelligence I spent hundreds of hours working on over the past few months. Oracle is the first chess program capable of playing like a human of any skill level at any time control. For instance, she can play like a 2800 rated super-grandmaster in classical or like a 1000 rated amateur in blitz. Working on Oracle has blown my mind many times and changed my view on both artificial intelligence and chess. I hope you will enjoy this journey into the world of artificial intelligence and chess as much as I did. Let's dive in. To introduce you to Oracle, we are going to take a look at a few examples, and the first one is the famous final game of the 2023 World Championship between Jan Nepomniachtchi with the white pieces and Ding Liren with the black pieces. It was a rapid tiebreak. Whoever wins these games wins the title. But according to Stockfish, there will not be any winner because this position is triple zeros after bishop takes g7 and another move h5, otherwise to keep the balance. So, what does Oracle predict in this position? I input the PGN up until the move we want to predict, type AND in my terminal and wait a couple of seconds. Here are predictions. The blunder queen to c7 is, according to her, the likeliest move, with a 37% chance of being played. Queen f7, also a blunder, is the second likeliest move with a 26% chance of being played. h5 is a good move but only has a 13% chance of being played. And bishop takes g7, the best move, has only 11% chance of being played. As you see, Oracle also evaluates each move and the current position. The evaluations are not in centipoints, but in expected scores. If we have 100 players of Nepo's level face 100 players of Ding's level from this position, according to Oracle, the result will not be 50-50, but rather 18-82. So, what happened in the game? Nepo played the likeliest move according to Oracle, queen to c7, a losing blunder. He lost the game, and that's how Ding became world champion. Let's take another example, this one fictive. Imagine a classical game between Magnus Carlsen and Garry Kasparov, where Magnus tries the scholar's mate. What does Oracle predict? I input the PGN, type AND, and here are predictions. According to Oracle, there is a 99.60% chance of g6 being played. Queen to e7 is a dubious move and has only a 0.30% chance of being played, while the mistake knight to h6 has basically no chance of being played. That was the scholar's mate attempt at the highest level. Now, let's imagine Jane, rated 608, playing the same moves against John's, rated 602. What does Oracle predict? I input the PGN, type AND, and g6 is still the likeliest move, but this time it gets an exclamation mark for being a good move. However, it only has a 59% chance of being played. The typical blunder knight to f6, which had no chance of being played by Kasparov, now has a 29% likelihood. Meanwhile, queen to e7 is no longer considered dubious by Oracle, but is a good move. If a beginner plays queen to e7, you would not criticize them. So as you can see, Oracle adapts to the player's level as well as the time control to make her predictions, evaluate the moves, and annotate them. Now let's imagine a blitz game between Daniel Duboff and Jan Nepomniachtchi, where Daniel plays knight to c3 and Nepo responds with knight to c6. So, the three best moves according to Stockfish, d4, e4, and knight to f3 are also the three likeliest according to Oracle, which seems normal. But now, let's take a look at a real game that caused a scandal at the last World Blitz Championship. Duboff and Nepo prearranged a draw, and instead of playing another Berlin, they played the now infamous Dance of the Night, and they ended up in this position. For Stockfish, it's exactly the same position, but you would not predict that the next move would be g4, e4, or knight to f3, would you? So what would you predict? If you are like Oracle, you predicted knight to b1, and you would be right, that was the move that was played. after knight to b1, you'd probably be even more confident that black is going to play knight to b8. And indeed, Oracle gave knight to b1 a 71% likelihood, and now gives knight to b8 a blunder, a 92% likelihood. Nepo did play knight to b8, and they agreed to a draw, but they deservedly got punished by the arbiter who gave them a 0-0 result. So as you can see, if someone clever can guess the next move, even if it's not the best, Oracle should also be able to predict it. Oracle also has the potential to change the way we prepare openings. Imagine you've just found a novelty. Instead of just looking at Stockfish top moves, you could also prepare against the moves your opponent is more likely to play. You could also use Oracle to create bots of any level, whether they are beginners, club players, or super-grandmasters. And finally, we can use Oracle to complement existing cheating detection systems. For instance, here is a chess.com profile of someone who was banned for cheating, after having cheated in dozens of games over several months. Let's take this game for instance, where she is playing black. Her last move was f5, attacking the queen, and her opponent replied with knight to a3. The vast majority of players would simply take the queen with f takes g4 here, and indeed, if we ask Oracle, she predicts that f takes g4 is by far the likeliest move with a 94% likelihood. However, bishop takes g2 check is Stockfish's top moves because it leads to mate in 11, while the natural f takes g4 only leads to mate in 12. In the game, black played bishop takes g2 check. 2 moves later, she plays queen to d1 check, and after rook to e1, almost everyone would simply take the rook and, for instance, deliver this checkmate, yeah? But queen to e1 check is only the second best move because it leads to mate in 3 moves, whereas rook to f1 leads to mate in 2. Let's see what Oracle predicts. She gives queen to e1 check a 96% likelihood, while rook to f1 has only a 2% chance. What did black play? You've guessed it, rook to f1 check, and the game ended with a nice checkmate, king takes g2, queen to f3. So obviously we won't ban anyone based on just 2 moves from one game, but someone consistently playing unlikely moves that also happen to be the best is suspicious. So Oracle can complement existing detection methods to identify cheaters faster. Sadly, the other side of the coin is that Oracle could enable, quote-unquote, clever cheating. At this point in the video, you might be thinking, okay, your examples are interesting and surprising, but you cherry-pick them. So how can I be sure that Oracle really works in general? To answer this question, I will remove my camera and take you to MaiaChess.com. Maia is, or was before Oracle, the reference human-like chess engine created by a team of American researchers. On the homepage, you can find a graphic showing the move matching accuracy for Stockfish, Lila, and Maia. They analyze a range of games from lichess of players rated between 1100s and 1900s. The human players played Stockfish's first move less than 40% of the time, Lila's first moves about 45% of the time, and Maia's first moves more than 50% of the time, around 52%. Let's keep in mind this 52% rate and see how Oracle compares. I had her analyze 6 sets of games covering all levels and time controls. Here in blue we have the reference Maia. Stockfish is in orange and Oracle in purple. Here are PogChamps games, rapid games played at around 900 elo. Next we have blitz games played on lichess at around 2000 elo. Then 1+1 bullet games played between Carlsen and Nakamura, followed by 3+1 blitz games also played between Magnus and Naka. Here are my last classical games, and finally we have the 2023 World Championship. Just like in Maia's set, amateurs have played Stockfish first move a bit less than 40% of the time. This rate increases with the level and the time control, reaching close to 60% at the highest human level. For each of these sets of games, Oracle has a very high move matching accuracy rate. It goes from about 56% for these games up to 61.5% for the Blitz games between Magnus and Naka, and even 62.5% for the World Championship. So, Oracle has a much higher move matching accuracy rate than Maia, and unlike Maia, she is not limited to amateurs. Oracle covers all levels from beginners to grandmasters in bullet, blitz, rapid, and classical games. The big question is, how does Oracle work? But to answer that, we must first address another question. How do humans think at chess? Let's quote some of the biggest names in chess. Garry Kasparov explained, it's intuition first, then calculation. Magnus Carlsen tends to agree, saying, I normally do what my intuition tells me to do. Most of the time spent thinking is just to double check. Vishy Anand defined intuition as the first move that comes to mind when you see a position. So, there is a consensus among the best players that, at least at their level, intuition comes first, followed by an analysis phase. Intuition can sometimes feel mystical or magical. Some players have played with this idea, like Capablanca, when he said, I see only one move ahead, but it's always the best one. In fact, there is no need for magic or even innate genius. Intuition is just another name for pattern recognition. To sum up, in chess we have human thinking equals to intuition plus analysis, where intuition is unconscious and effortless pattern recognition, and analysis involves all the conscious and effortful processes aiming to verify, correct, or complement intuition. In chess, analysis means calculation as well as plan formulation or the application of methods such as the cutoff method, the Dorfman method, the Silman method, or others. To better understand the prowess of intuition and also its limitations, let's look at a few examples. The first one should be very easy if you are used to solving chess puzzles. Black delivers checkmate in 2 moves with queen to g1 check, sacrificing the queen, and now knight to f2 with a nice method mate. This demonstrates the power of intuition. It allows us to instantly solve tactics, but only if they match known patterns. This queen sacrifice to deliver a smothered mate is one of the most famous mating patterns, with thousands of similar examples. Second power of intuition. In quiet positions, it allows us to find the best positional move if the position is typical. Here we have a typical Italian game and many typical moves like h3, rook to e1, and bishop to c2 have already been played. The only typical move left here is knight to f1. It is the best move according to Stockfish, the move that was played by Movsesian in this game, the move that was played in 85% of the games on Lichess, and 100% of the time in the Masters database. This position might look more complex, and even club players might feel lost, might have no idea what to play, but almost every title player knows the following positional idea. First bishop takes f6, and then bishop to d5 to exchange these bishops, recapture with a knight, and end up in a good knight versus bad bishop situation. Bishop takes f6 was played in the 2 games of the Masters database and in 97% of the games on Lichess. It is a brilliant idea, and one might wonder how it is possible to find it in Blitz or even in Bullet. The answer, of course, is that this series of exchanges is typical. It has been played in famous games, most notably in this classic by the young Bobby Fischer, where he played a similar sequence. Bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, bishop d5, and won a nice game with a monstrous knight on d5 against a poor bishop on f6. But intuition also has several limitations, the first being that in non-typical position it is often worthless. Here is a mate in one move that I've composed. It is white to play, unless you are an experienced solver, and in which case this position will be typical. It is designed so that none of the intuitive moves, none of the moves that come first to mind deliver mate. For instance, queen to g7, no, it is pinned. Knight to e7, king to f8. Knight to h6, king takes. f7 check, queen takes. rook takes b8, knight to c8, bishop takes b3, bishop to d5, rook to g3, king takes h8. Very often, even if you are a good club player, it is the last check that comes to mind that delivers mate. Queen to g3, which is really a checkmate. Another limitation of intuition. It is often not sufficient to find complex combinations that involve lots of pieces. The following might be the best combination of 2024. It was played by Salem with the black pieces against Fedoseyev. Rook takes b3, rook sacrifice, rook to a8, threatening mate, king to d1 to block with bishop to c1, but now queen takes h5, queen sacrifice, queen takes, rook to a1 check, bishop to c1 blocking the check, and now rook takes c1, second rook sacrifice, and white resign because it would have been made in a few moves. Check, 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 and finally checkmate. It is an extraordinary combination that can only be found through calculation, not by intuition alone. And you might ask, but wait a minute, now that I know this combination, I know the pattern, so if I end up in a similar but slightly different position, I'll be able to play rook takes b3 instantly, by intuition. But there is a huge catch. Because all of the pieces are involved, the slightest change produces a butterfly effect, which might change the evaluation of rook takes b3 and of the position. Let's imagine a very small change that seems unimportant at first and puts the pawn on c5 to c6. Now, in this position, rook takes b3 is a mistake. Why? Because a takes b3, rook to a8 threatening mate. Now, if king to d1, it is the same. Queen takes h5 and black wins. But now, white has the incredible bishop to a7 with the idea rook takes, queen takes d3, and now rook to a1 is only a check or a few checks. Check, 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 and now black can resign. So this butterfly effect makes it impossible to find such combinations by intuition alone. And now the worst limitation of intuition. In some positions, like this one, they look typical. There is an intuitive move, but it is a huge blunder. So this is a blitz game between Magnus Carlsen with white and Hikaru Nakamura, played in a title Tuesday. Magnus just played knight to f3, and Naka kicked the other knight with h6. As soon as he played h6, he realized that his queen was no longer defending h7, which is mate. So h6 is the intuitive move for a super grandmaster, but it is also the worst possible move in the position. And incredibly, Magnus also failed to see this simple mate in one move and played knight to e4. So that is intuition's worst problem. Sometimes the intuitive move can be a huge blunder. If a super grandmaster was forced to play instantly, only relying on intuition, they would probably lose against a club player who was allowed to think normally. Most of the time, the grandmaster would play a good move, probably the same move as I would play in a classical game. But our level is much less defined by our best moves than by our worst move. If they play a 19 very good move, but on move 20 they blunder the queen or miss the mate in 1, they would lose. The best idea for creating a program that plays like a human is to reproduce human thinking with intuition and analysis. And the innovative idea behind Oracle is to use GPT for the intuitive part. And here you might be thinking, what? GPT? But come on, Yosha. Everyone knows that GPT cannot play chess. Maybe you've seen this video by Hikaru, where with white against GPT, Hikaru plays knight takes e5, and GPT responds knight takes e5 too. Not the legal move knight takes e4, but the illegal move knight takes e5 on move 3. And when I first saw this video, about a year ago, I wasn't surprised. I then saw LLMs as stochastic parrots, stupid text predictors that use probabilities to guess the next character in a given text. So how could they play chess? Of course, they can give a few good moves in the opening by repetition and by chance, but after a few moves, they will inevitably give a move that is either senseless or even illegal. And that was the consensus until a researcher, Grant Slatton, tweeted that if you prompt GPT right, you can make it play at around 1800 ELO. Let's revisit the famous Queen to G1 check example. Instead of using GPT in chatbot mode, we use it in text completion mode. I paste the pigeon until the last move that was played, here king to h1, and ask GPT for the next 4 characters. Submit, it predicts queen to g1 check. So Grant Slatton's results have been confirmed by other researchers, like French University professor and FIDE master Mathieu Hacher, who evaluated GPT at around 1750 ELO. However, he pointed out that GPT made illegal moves in 16% of the games. So when you put it like that, a chess program that plays like an average chess club player but makes a lot of illegal moves isn't impressive, let alone useful. But I was fascinated that a text predictor could play decent chess. It raised many questions. Can we say that GPT understands the rules of chess? Or even that GPT understands chess? Does GPT have an internal representation of the chessboard? I won't pretend to have an answer to these questions, but for instance, researcher Adam Carvonen claims that an LLM that has been fed millions of pigeons does have an internal representation of the chessboard. In a sense, we can say it sees the chessboard. But that a text predictor could play chess well blew my mind. And to better understand GPT's chess abilities, I tested it on hundreds of positions and even hundreds of entire games. At some point, I realized we can compare GPT to a super-grandmaster, whom we show the pigeon of the game and ask to predict the next move. But they have to answer instantly, meaning intuitively. And to be clear, we don't ask them what they, as a super-grandmaster, would play, but what they think the player of the game would play. The super-grandmaster would respond here, queen to g1 check. But GPT does something even better. For each token, each character, it gives a probability. Here, for instance, it gives a 97.58% likelihood that the next token will be a Q for queen. 1.45% that the next token will be an N for knight, and 0.44% that the next token will be R for rook. And if we type instead of Q N for knight, it predicts knight to F2 check. With R for rook, it predicts rook takes E8. So in this position, GPT thinks the likeliest move is by far queen to G1 check, followed by the blunder knight to F2 check, and then the third likeliest move, rook takes E8, also blunder. So this way we can ask GPT for all the human candidate moves in a position and their prior probabilities. When I understood this, I knew we could combine GPT's prowess with Stockfish's prowess to create an engine that really plays chess like a human. The only problem was that I had never written a single line of code in my entire life. So I learned the basics and started the hard work. And voila. So after hundreds of hours of work, I created Oracle, which uses Stockfish for the analysis part and modifies the probabilities given by GPT. To better understand how Oracle works, let's look at some examples and compare the prior probability given by GPT to the final probability given by Oracle, using a modified version of Oracle that gives both. And let's start with this bishop takes f6 example. So we see that GPT already gives a very high 95.33% chance to bishop takes f6 being played, and Oracle slightly increases it to 96.19%. In the knight f1 example, Oracle gives a knight f1 a 97.31% likelihood compared to 96.81% according to GPT. So in intuitive positions, GPT is already excellent on its own, and Oracle only slightly modifies the probabilities. It gets more interesting in counterintuitive positions. So let's revisit the Echecs blunder by Naka against Magnus. What does Oracle say and what does GPT say? According to Oracle, there was a 13% chance to Echecs being played, this blunder, rendering mate in 1, and according to GPT, a 57% chance. And Oracle predicts that bishop d6, one of the best moves, is also the likeliest move. But Oracle modifies GPT's probabilities based on many factors: the player's level, the time control, whether the move is a mistake, how big a mistake it is, whether the move leads to mate, if so, in how many moves, and so on. So let's take the same game, but tell Oracle it was a bullet game instead of blitz. This time she gives to H6 a 31% likelihood compared to the 13% before. And now bishop d6 has only a 38% chance of being played according to Oracle, while GPT didn't change its probabilities. And now let's say that it's not a bullet or blitz, but a classical game. And now we see that bishop d6 is by far the likeliest move, and h6 is no longer in the top 3. But GPT also did not modify its probabilities. Let's take a new example, a blitz game played between a player rated 2153 and another rated 2077. Black just played queen takes c2, threatening mate on g2, and white responded with rook to d2 to defend against the threat. But they missed a mate in 2 moves, queen takes h7 check, sacrificing the queen to give a nice smothered mate. So this is very similar to the queen to g1 check example that we saw previously. But this queen takes h7 is a known pattern, but much less frequent, much less famous than the good old queen to g1 check. So what do Oracle and GPT predict in this position? As we see, they both predict that rook to d2, the move that was actually played, is the likeliest move in this position. But they greatly differ in their appreciation of the move queen takes h7. According to GPT, it is almost impossible that queen takes h7 will be the next move of this game, 28% chance. But according to Oracle, it is quite likely, not the likeliest, but the second likeliest move with a 23% chance of being played. Now, let's say that white is not rated 2153, but 1453 instead. What do both Oracle and GPT predict now? So rook to d2 is still the likeliest move, but now queen takes h7 is only the 5th likeliest move according to Oracle, and GPT did not change its probability of queen takes h7. And now let's say that white is not rated 1400 but 2800, and the same position after queen takes c2. What do they predict? In this position, now Oracle thinks that queen takes h7 is the likeliest move, while GPT did not change its probability. So it is really important to remember that GPT does not calculate at all. It is very good, but only at giving the intuitive move in the position. Because the picture is worth 1,000 words, here's a diagram summarizing how Oracle works. Like a human, Oracle uses both intuition and analysis. GPT handles the intuitive part by recognizing patterns in pigeon text to provide candidate moves and their prior probabilities. Stockfish then analyzes these candidate moves, and Oracle adjusts GPT's probabilities based on Stockfish evaluations and several other factors. Let's compare the move matching accuracy for GPT and Oracle across the 6 sets of games I've previously discussed. GPT is represented in orange and Oracle in purple. Overall, we see that while Oracle consistently outperforms GPT, GPT's performance is already quite impressive. At lower levels and with faster time controls, Oracle only slightly improves GPT's move matching accuracy. However, at the highest level, GPT's inability to calculate creates a significant gap. But you might be thinking, if Oracle predicts moves like Carlsen and Nakamura, and GPT has only slightly worse move matching accuracy, does that mean that GPT, a text predictor, can play chess like the two best human players in the world? Not at all. And this is the paradox we are going to decipher. We take the moves played by Magnus and Naka in blue, those predicted by GPT in orange, and those predicted by Oracle in purple, and categorize them into good moves on the left and bad moves on the right. The good moves use the left axis from 0 to 100, while the bad moves, including inaccuracies, mistakes, and blunders, use the right axis from 0 to 10. The players GPT and Oracle all have a similar rate of good moves. GPT is slightly behind, but that's not what really matters. In chess, your level is less defined by your ability to find good moves than by your ability to avoid blunders, and GPT has a much higher rate of blunders than the players or Oracle. The average expected score loss, ESL, is similar to the average centuple loss. The lower, the better. We see that Oracle plays on average at the same level as Magnus and Hikaru when predicted their moves, with a 239 average ESL for Magnus and Naka and a 237 average ESL for Oracle. However, GPT plays much worse with a 3.71 ESL, so despite its high move matching accuracy, GPT is far from playing at the level of Magnus and Naka, even in bullets. The difference is much more significant at the highest level. For the World Championship games, we see a much higher rate of blunders and mistakes for GPT compared to the players and Oracle. On average, Oracle plays slightly better than Ding and Nepo when predicting their moves, but GPT plays much worse. Now let's do the same analysis at the amateur level using the PogChamp games. Here we see that the human players make fewer good moves and many more blunders than GPT and Oracle. On average, both GPT and Oracle play significantly better than the amateurs when predicted their moves. This paradox is related to the wisdom of crowds, and we are going to explain it by looking at a couple of blunders. In this position, the best move is the incredible knight to d5, sacrificing the queen with the ID knight to e7 check royal fork, king f8, knight c6, defending white pawn and attacking the two black pawn. White, with a rating of 700, had almost no chance of fighting this move. Now, let's ask Oracle what she thinks, and let's ask her not the usual 3 likeliest moves, but the 12th likeliest moves, and also to give us GPT's probabilities. As we see, both Oracle and GPT think that the blunder queen to e8 check is the likeliest move with about 41% chance, while knight to d5, the best move, is only the 5th likeliest move with about 4% according to Oracle and 3% according to GPT. In the game, white did play queen to e8 check. So to make sense of these probabilities, imagine giving this position to 100 players of white's level and asking them what moves they would play. It is very likely that the most common answer would be queen to e8. In that sense, it is a predictable blunder. Very few players, if any, would play the best move, knight to d5. Let's now consider this position also from a PogChamp game. The best move here is bishop takes c6. What do Oracle and GPT predict? They both give bishop takes c6 the best move and only good move as the likeliest move, but with a probability much lower than 50%. So if we give this position to 100 players of white's level, the majority would likely play a bad move, either a mistake or even a blunder. However, the most common answer is likely to be the best move, bishop takes c6. So individually, they are mostly bad, but if they decide to vote and choose the most common answer, they'd be collectively good. This is a pure example of the wisdom of crowds in chess, as famously seen in the 1999 game Kasparov vs. the World. In the game, White blundered by playing queen to h6, giving up the knight on e5. This was an unpredictable blunder to which GPT and Oracle assigned a 2-3% likelihood. To sum up, at the low level, GPT's inability to calculate doesn't matter as much, but it does at the high level. At the low level, players make many unpredictable blunders, while they make furious unpredictable blunders at the high level. This creates a strong wisdom of chords effect at the low level, but a weak one at the high level. At the low level, both GPT and Oracle predict better moves than those actually played, while at the high level, GPT predicts much worse moves and Oracle predicts equally good moves. Why did I name my programmer Oracle? Because just like the Oracle from the Matrix, her predictions might feel magical, but in reality, they are just the results of calculations performed by a program. I remind you that I made this program free and open source. You can download the code from my GitHub to run it or modify it as you like. All this cost me hundreds of hours of work over several months. I've also invested some money directly because this version of GPT is paid, and I suffered from the opportunity cost of doing less of my regular job, which is playing chess and giving lessons. So if you want to support Oracle or simply thank me, you can do so on PayPal, linked in the description. I would be eternally grateful. This is the end of the video. I really hope you have enjoyed it. Don't hesitate to like it and share it. Have a good day or a good night. Ciao.